when you lack the self-awareness or you're just unaware of the difference between the learned you, the conditioned you, the fearful you versus the real you, the authentic you, the natural you. Finding your flow, finding your rhythm, tapping into the authentic side of you. And life, all of a sudden, I'm not saying it's easy necessarily, there's still challenges.
But in my experience, not everybody actually is willing to put the effort in that it takes to change. I mean, what's your perspective on that?
Okay, there's my motivation. So first off, you've got to quantify, okay, am I misaligned? You've got to be honest with yourself. Is there a side of me I'm muting? Am I denying the world a certain aspect of my gift? And if you're honest with yourself and you say yes, and you realise actually some choices you want to continue to make are allowing that to perpetuate.
Welcome everybody, this is Simon Phillips and The Change Show. My wonderful guest this week, Jim Hughes from Untamed. Now, Jim's got lots of stories, I'm sure, to share with us today, so I'm not going to blow his cover by giving you any of my perceptions. As always, we're going to ask Jim to introduce himself. Jim, lovely to see you.
Lovely to see you too, Simon. Thank you for having me.
So tell us then, Jim, just in a condensed form, tell us a little bit about you and your journey to setting up Untamed and beyond.
Well, the journey is a long and circuitous one, so I will do my best to keep it concise. Brevity is not necessarily a superpower of mine, but essentially I run a coaching business called Untamed, which I set up back in 2017, so we're 8 years old now. And the work I do is helping largely business owners, but any kind of senior leaders, military veterans, high performance athletes, usually the driven types, reconnect with who they really are and, more importantly, who they want to be. So unlocking their stories, their fears, their narratives, the different sides of them that are holding them back, understand the context, and then from that place they can then decide, okay, how do I want to approach life? How do I want to show up? What does my life want to look like? What does it want to feel like? And I do that in groups, I do that in one-to-ones. I love getting people outside. I love taking people on walks, getting into cold water where allowed. And it's just an incredibly meaningful place to be. It's come from, like a lot of business owners, it's come from a very deep passion of a need to scratch my own itch. And seeing the progress people can make when they really sort of dig underneath the surface is incredibly rewarding.
I was looking through your website and bits and pieces, and I saw this wonderful phrase about swimming up someone else's river, and it's just like, okay, what's that all about? I mean, I think I might know, but what was your swimming up someone else's river moment?
Well, I've toyed with that phrase for so long because I was trying to come up with like a very apt description for how life can feel when you're living out of alignment with your best self, with your authentic self. And that's the best sort of descriptor is when you are trying to be somebody you're not, when you lack the self-awareness or you're just unaware of the difference between the learned you, the conditioned you, the fearful you versus the real you, the authentic you, the natural you.
Yeah.
That's the difference between life feeling like a struggle constantly, i.e. like you're swimming up somebody else's stream or river, like you have to tread water constantly just to stay where you are, versus finding your flow, finding your rhythm, tapping into the authentic side of you. And life, all of a sudden, I'm not saying it's easy necessarily, there's still challenges, but those challenges feel surmountable. You're spending less time overthinking and second guessing. You're spending less time in your head, you're spending more time in your body, you're more instinctive, you're more natural. And as a result, you save so much energy. And of course, you're happier, you're more fulfilled usually, you're more aligned, and therefore your outcomes, whether it's performance, health, your relationships are also elevated.
Yeah. So when you're working with your clients, do they need your help to try and identify those moments when they've just lost themselves? Or do you find that people have their own eureka moments when it just becomes clear to them?
Well, I mean, it's a bit of both. Obviously, the people who are working with me, by definition, they have decided that they need my help in whatever form that may be, whether it's just a series of sort of pointed questions that I create the space for and then ask, whether it's just being with them, whether it's just providing a trusted space for these conversations to be had. Everybody has their own kind of needs that they take from the work, but a lot of the time, I suppose, if to maybe reinterpret your question, maybe incorrectly or not, I'm not sure, but maybe is there a particular moment that has led them to say, I need to make a change? That really varies person to person. Usually
Yeah.
there is a straw that breaks the camel's back, but it's not that one thing. It's like it takes 20 years to make an overnight success. It's the same with pain and discomfort. Usually there's a point where we realize it, we go, oh God, okay, something needs to change. This feeling of frustration and tension is now too much to bear and I can't ignore it anymore.
Yeah.
But that's not the work of one moment. That's been the work of probably several years, if not decades worth of misalignment, which you have either outworked, outrun, suppressed, denied, ignored, and now for whatever reason, for multiple reasons, you can no longer do that. So the pain has gotten too great.
So I'm guessing then it's a bit of a mixture of reasons that people come to work with you. What do you think makes you stand out for people that are in this situation in their lives?
Funny, I was actually asking a client this the other day. We're kind of halfway through our one-to-one work, and I said, why me? And I wasn't saying that out of a place of ego. I was actually going somewhere with the question, but her answer was still intriguing.
Yeah.
And you're right, one person's ideal coach is to somebody who you connect with. And the people who are drawn to my work, I think, are drawn to partly the outdoors nature of the work, the way I show up. Obviously, of course, I am unique. Every other coach is unique. It's kind of a blend of playfulness, but also depth. Sort of in sincerity, but also an irreverence, a willingness to kind of support them, but also to challenge them as well. I'm not there to be their best friend. And I suppose I don't take myself too seriously. I take the work incredibly seriously, but I don't allow that to, never really framed it this way, I don't really allow that to kind of decide the energy of the conversation. Do you know what I mean? There still has to be room for play and sort of a free-spirited nature of that. And some people are just drawn to that. Obviously, there are some people who look at the way I am, my brand, the way I speak, and go, nope, couldn't think of anything worse. I mean, there's lots of times I do a workshop with a room full of people, and I will upset a certain number of people in that room because of the way I am. That's, you can't please everybody.
Yeah. No, it's interesting you say that, because I literally just got off of a call that was all about Lego serious play, and how that engages brains and people in very different ways than just straightforward reading or post-it notes or the usual sort of team type activities. And play is so powerful, and so I'm glad to hear that you're injecting that fun into the work that you do. So, I mean, Untamed is an interesting word for your business. Tell us a little bit about the origin of that and what you think that stands for today.
Well, the origin of the company was when I was living in Australia. I was running an engineering business in Perth in the mining industry, and whilst initially it was very exciting, it was a massive growth opportunity for me. I'd never had a serious job before, and all of a sudden I was running this company and had a company car and corner office and all that kind of stuff. My ego was loving it. My chaotic side was loving it. It was like drinking from a fire hose. But after a while, I realised that actually this was not me. I was very stressed. It was misaligned. It was muting my gifts, and it wasn't allowing me to leverage my strengths. And I started to realise that I was naturally very different from a lot of the people in the mining industry that I had seen and come into contact with. They may have been masking themselves the same way I was, I don't know. But there was a kind of playfulness, there was a irreverence, like I said, there was a desire to sort of, excuse my French, but be the dickhead that I was allowed to have when I was growing up. I'm the youngest of three. I was allowed to be a child for longer than my older brothers often are, or older siblings. I also lived in Canada for 5 years as a ski instructor, where I was just partying and hiking and camping and having a great time. And that sort of allowed my personality to shine. But by the time I was in Australia, it was being dull. I was like, oh, I have to be serious. I have to be more stern. I have to be more bitter. And when I realised actually, I've drifted really far away from who I am, and I've decided that I wanted to help other people close that gap. It was the people who were most like me that I most wanted to help to begin with.
Right.
And that's where the idea of untaming came from. It's like, okay, you're trapping yourself. Your fears are allowing yourself to trap yourself, and you're playing small, you're muting your character. What would happen if we just allowed that to become untamed, to sort of connect with all different sides of yourself? How might the world be a better place
Mm.
if you allowed yourself to do that. And it's a massively powerful question. Of course, now it doesn't just apply to people like me; it applies to everybody, which is obviously ultimately where the work has gone. It's helping anybody become untamed, not just the people who are just like me.
Yeah. So you were talking more there about the outcomes. What's the first step people need to take to find their untamed path?
Self-awareness is I suppose acknowledgement. I believe there's three steps, and I don't really frame my work like this, but for kind of listeners, it's helpful. If ever you're going to try and enact change of any kind, I believe there's three steps you need to take, and the first step is quantifying the cost of the status quo. Basically, if what you're experiencing right now is not painful enough, you won't change.
Yeah.
If you want to get fit, great, but what's the cost of being unfit right now? If you have a medical emergency, have a heart attack, oh, okay, the cost of being unfit is now massive. Okay, there's my motivation. So first off, you've got to quantify, okay, am I misaligned? You've got to be honest with yourself. Is there a side of me I'm muting? Is there a side of, am I denying the world a certain aspect of my gift? And if you're honest with yourself and you say yes, and you realize actually some choices you are continuing to make are allowing that to perpetuate, and you can be radically honest about the true impact of that, that's the first step.
Okay. It's getting people to the point where I talk a lot about acceptance in the work that I do. So you're getting people to that point of acceptance that change is desirable almost.
Yes, I suppose that to an extent that they've already come to that realization before they speak to me, because by the time anyone works with a coach, you especially someone like me who's like, okay, who pulls no punches about how challenging it may be, about the depth of the conversations we're going to have, about the pain, the frustration, the embarrassment, shame, whatever that you may have to come face to face with to grow through this. They're going to have self-selected out a long time before that. So if their pain isn't enough for them, they wouldn't generally be talking to me, and they certainly wouldn't say yes to the work and then pay for the privilege to do all of that. So to a certain extent, they've already come to that far enough along that path to accept they need to change. It's then a question of to what extent and in which areas. And then it's a case of, okay, what does that look like? How can we do steps 2 and 3?
Yeah, well, that's what I was going to ask about next. So that, yes, people come to you because they say they want to change. But in my experience, not everybody actually is willing to put the effort in that it takes to change. I mean, what's your perspective on that?
I totally agree. There's a meme or whatever it's called where it's like a lot of people want change, but not a lot of people want to change, to your point. And there's a lot of people who, when I start to explain, or I say I don't really explain much, I kind of ask questions and drill down.
Yeah.
If and when they get to a place where they can actually see, oh, right, this is the challenge, this is the real nub of this. Change is requiring a lot of honesty, a lot of bravery, a lot of courage, a lot of commitment. Oh, actually, maybe I'm not ready for that. The people that are ready, obviously, we work together. The people that aren't either don't work at all or work with somebody else where the stakes are different or what. But yeah, it's different levels for different people, definitely. But you've got to want it.
Absolutely. And what does an untamed person look like?
An untamed person looks like somebody who is aware of the different sides of themselves, and I call these sides of ourselves cast members. And the analogy I use is like, imagine your brain is like a stage, and in the middle of that stage is a microphone, and either standing at that microphone or waiting behind the curtains are your different cast members, the different sides of Simon, the different sides of Jim, and they're unique to you, and they've been created by you, influenced by your nature and your nurture, but they've been created by you either in a single moment, let's say a traumatic event in your childhood where you say, oh wow, the previous me isn't equipped to deal with the pain that I'm going through right now. I need to be somebody different. Or it's at the result of a series of experiences that you live through, and where you become conditioned, and you say, actually, you kind of gradually, bit by bit, a new cast member is formed to get you through that pain or to help you avoid it. And having awareness of who these cast members are and being able to step back away from them to become the director, where you can look at them from a place of clarity, self-awareness and acknowledgement. See them for who they are, why they were created, how they may be helping you or not. And then from that place of sort of conscious awareness, being able to make a decision on who do I want to be in this moment, and being able to sit with all of their fears, whether their loves, the pain, the discomfort, without letting them define you. That's what an untamed person looks like.
Interesting. I get the sense that people listening will be imagining their untamed self just listening to the description, because there's a lot of people, as you say, who are stuck or feel stuck in a life, or trapped even in a life that they never imagined. I call it, waking up when you're on one of those travelators at the airport. And it's like, how on earth did I get here? But tell me, Jim, I understand. A little bird tells me there's a new cast member in the Hughes family. So what impact is this making on your untamed life?
I don't know what impact you're talking about, Simon. Absolutely not. I've barely noticed it. It's been a breeze going from a family of one child to a family of two. No, thank you for the comment. Yeah, it's been interesting. More so the impact on our 3-year-old, or soon to be 3-year-old. And talking about being aware of your cast of characters, any parent will testify. Your children can, and then they may not use this language, but your children can prompt all the different sides of you more so than anybody else. They're like a short circuit to your most, to your darkest rage, to your frustrations, to your embarrassment, to your shame, to your unbridled joy and connection and love. Your children can help you, whether it's positive or negative, feel all of the feels. So,
yeah.
As my soon-to-be 3-year-old is becoming more and more threatened by this new addition, and therefore more needy, more tantrumy, more difficult, less logical. It's definitely bringing out different sides of me, and they're not all positive, I have to say.
Well, thank you for being honest.
As always.
Wonderful. So, Jim, one of the things we like to get our guests to contemplate is, because we find it's really supportive for those budding change makers out there, what advice would you give a young Jim?
I would tell a young Jim to care less about what other people think, and I don't mean that in a selfish way, in a tunnel vision kind of way. There's a side of me that is still not prevalent today, but still exists, especially in work, that cares deeply about what other people think, especially my clients and my audience, and in lots of ways that allows empathy, and in lots of ways it forces me to just second guess myself and question myself and play small. I was the youngest of 3 boys in a very rambunctious, competitive, chaotic and intense household. And there's a strong side of me that is, I was the youngest by 4 years, but I was also small for my age. So there's a character I've named called the Runt, who comes out when he feels threatened. And yeah. I would probably speak to that Runt character, that small version of me, and say, everything's okay. You don't need to be X, Y, and Z in order to be heard or in order to be enough. Because I changed who I was throughout my 20s and early 30s. I tried to become like my older brother in order to gain his respect and his love. And whilst it was fun in lots of ways, it was also quite costly. And that was all from fear.
It is interesting how these things evolve, isn't it? Equally, I'm the youngest of 3, and 3 boys with a similar sort of potentially age gap as is you're talking about there, and I recognise some of the symptoms. Brilliant. So, Jim, it's been fascinating talking to you. Do come back, when you've got some updates or things to share. But in the meantime, nobody gets off the show without sharing a track that they'd love to add to the Change Show playlist. So, what's it going to be for you? Now, this is typically it's something that has stayed with them maybe throughout their life, or something that has real emotional resonance and maybe even a little story behind it. But what is it for you?
Well, this is not, it hasn't been around in my life for that long. I don't even know how old the song is, to be fair. But there was a particular moment. I ran a retreat for a bunch of alumni clients I have in a group, and it was in the summer. It was in the UK, and it was sort of nature based. We're in this sort of glamping site, and it was an incredible experience. For me, it was one of the most fulfilling coaching experiences to be part of and to lead, but also for some of my clients, it was like life-changing from what they've told me. And I remember often music, I like music to play a big part in these experiences, because you can attach lots of emotions to them. You can anchor things positively and negatively and summon up all those feelings just from listening to it. And we kind of put together a playlist as we were going along, but on the last morning I chose a song, and I don't know how the impact had on my attendees, but it hit home for me, and it's called Homecoming by Josh Ritter. or Joshua Ritter, I'm not sure if it's full name, and it's just the title, the words of the song, it just obviously means a lot to me, and it's just a brilliant song.
Fantastic. Thank you, Jim. So, people listening at home, how can they get in touch if they'd like to know more about what you're doing?
Well, they can check me out on becomeuntamed.com, and they can learn more about the work I do and contact me through the form or LinkedIn, Jim Hughes. And they are the two best ways. But if anyone has any questions or would like to connect, I'm always happy to help.
Fabulous. Thank you, Jim. And we'll put your track in the notes and all the links too. So if you're listening and you've enjoyed this conversation, tell your friends, subscribe, and that helps us to keep this show on the road, as they say. So for now, Jim, I just want to say a huge thank you for coming along and being my guest today.
Thank you very much, Simon. It's been an absolute pleasure.
Brilliant. And we'll see everybody else on the next edition of The Change Show. Until then, take care.